The Nikki Glaser Podcast.
I want to set you up, Brian. You came in, you said you had a story that you want to tell.
Yeah, this weekend I had an ordeal.
Oh, please.
Yeah.
Bring us through it. Hold our hands through your ordeal.
Yeah, so I had a very stressful weekend because there's my neighbor is I guess he's like a farmer. He's not my neighbor is a farmer. He has a lot of land and he farms. And my window looks out into his yard and I see him farming and he's a nice man, but to protect his crops, he puts out traps. And
Ooh, that Last of Us.
yes, and frequently he traps animals like squirrels, possum, things like that. And sometimes he leaves them in that trap for a long time. Like, you're allowed to trap animals, but you can't just leave them in there.
Yeah.
And so I've been watching this guy's yard for years, and like I've called animal control on him probably like 3 or 4 times over the last 3 years. Because I'm like, hey, there's a squirrel in there, there's a possum in there's something in there, and they're not letting it out. It's been in there for a long time. And
God damn it.
the local animal control person would go down there and they would give him a warning and they would release the animal and they would say, you really can't leave it in there for that long. And so he's been spoken to. So on Friday of this weekend, I'm expecting to have a nice, pleasant weekend. And I look out the window and I see in his backyard, there is a possum trapped in his cage. And it's raining, and this possum's probably been in there since the night because it's a nocturnal creature. And I'm like, I can't believe this possum in there, but I'm going to keep an eye on it because, like, you know, if it's in there for too long, this guy needs to let it out.
Of course it's going to be in there too long. He never lets them out. So,
Yes.
okay, yes.
So I all day I'm watching this possum in this cage, and it's just so excruciating to watch this possum be like, what is this? He's like, maybe I can get out now. Maybe I can get out. And you can never get out.
No, you'll never get out. Like, sometimes people don't understand why I care more about animals than human rights issues. It's because humans can understand their circumstance.
Yes.
Humans can go, I'm starving right now. I mean, not children is a different thing, but even children can kind of grasp and conceptualize what is happening. We're in war right now. It's raining. I'm scared. I'm lonely. Animals are just fucking terrified and there's no accepting their fate. It's just that is the part that breaks my heart, is that confusion, that trying to get out, that every animal that everyone eats feels.
Yes. And so you have to give a grace period, because it's like you're allowed to trap the animal, and then after like a few hours, you can take it to the woods away from your crops. I go to sleep. I wake up the next morning and I look out my window and the possum is still there. So that means it's been in there for over 24 hours.
Oh my God.
At this point, I sent an email to the the local animal control guy. I have an email thread with him. We correspond. And I called him and nobody answered. And I'm like, okay, well, no one's answering. And then at a certain point, after more and more hours pass, it's raining. And worst of all, I
have to say, if I was listening to this podcast, I would stop listening right now because I can't take this story. I will stay on because I'm the host, but I am so uncomfortable with an animal's struggle. If this were not my podcast, I would just go, I'm assuming this story ends well. I'm not listening. So will you get to the fucking ending right now?
Okay.
I need to know this. Is this possum okay? I can't handle this.
There's people walking around in the backyard. They see this possum. I know that they see it.
This guy, this fucking farmer. Okay, I hate him so much.
So I call the police, the local police, not 911. I call the police station and I say, hey, there's a person with a possum. It's howling in the backyard. Can someone just go over there and tell them to release it? Because I don't want to go over there because I don't want this guy to know that I'm a snitch. I want to keep looking out my window. And I also don't want him to retaliate if he finds out it's me. I'm really scared.
Because he can set traps. He's a shifty guy.
He's going to trap you.
The police tell me that the local animal control officer is no longer a position in the city. So there isn't one.
God.
They said you have to contact LA County. So I call the county, and the county tells me,
good for you, Brian.
The county tells me we can't go out. This is not something that we would go out to see. This is not something we would do. We need the police to tell us to go there. So I call the police again, and I say, can you tell animal control to
God,
go
it's
out
like-
there.
You're like dealing with siblings. Like, fine, you go tell mom.
Yes. So
Yeah,
finally, they go out there and they knock on the person's door and they say, "Did you call animal control?" And they say, "No, we did not."
And then they
God.
leave.
And then they leave. So I'm like, I'm waiting like 2 hours. I'm still watching this possum. It's been in there for over 2 days at this point. And so I call back animal control and I say, "What happened?" And they say they told us, but they didn't call. It's like, no, you don't understand. I'm snitching. You need to come to me and I'll show it to you in the backyard. It's not them. They're not gonna tell you we're torturing animals back here. So
Right.
they're like, "Well, you have to get the police to call us and tell us to come back." So I call the police again.
Brian.
I call
Good
the police
man.
again, and they say, "Okay, we'll tell them." Animal control is on its way, they say. And then
And
I
you
have
are not getting anything done this day.
no,
Yeah,
I just
it's not
feel I wanted to make pancakes, and the whole day I'm
Eat the
hungry, and I
circumference.
just-
Possum
and I'm like,
pancakes.
I don't want to make
How do you eat those
pancakes.
pancakes?
I don't want to make pancakes when the police show up. That'll be horrible. I'll be in the middle of a pancake and it'll get burned. I don't
Yeah.
want
Be
to do
eating
that.
around the edge.
Is Allie, your fiance, here also like with you, monitoring, staking it out, or is she kind of just like Brian's doing his thing?
She's not here this weekend. I'm all alone.
Okay.
I'm just alone. And I'm looking at this thing, and I just wanted to
Explains
make
that.
pancakes so I would feel better. And then, my neighbor, who is an 88-year-old woman who I have a very good relationship with,
Another neighbor?
a downstairs neighbor.
Got it.
Yes. She doesn't fuck around, and she loves animals. And I say, our neighbor's got a possum, and then blah blah blah. And she says, "Well, I'll go over there and I'll talk to him. I have a pre-existing relationship with him." I was like, "Oh, okay." And it's like, "But you got to wait till he's outside, and then I'll go over there and I'll talk to him." So I post up at my window as soon as that man comes outside to check his recycling. I text my neighbor. I say, "He's out," and then my neighbor says, "Okay," and then she goes out there. Excuse me. My upstairs neighbor says, and I'm like,
Oh,
no,
no.
you don't understand.
No
I'm
one
snitching."
understands the game. Okay.
Yes. My upstairs neighbor says that he sees a possum and it's cruel. And then at the exact same moment, animal control shows up.
Oh.
Yes. And
Yes.
the man, but unfortunately, the man has now been tipped off. Animal control shows up, and I'm watching this out my window. I watch the guy.
Look at your window.
No, he goes into his backyard. He knows animal control is here. He knows that we know about the possum. He goes into the backyard. He lifts up the cage, and he hides it in his shed. Yeah, he hides
What
it
an
in his shed.
asshole.
You have to get involved. You have to get involved. You have to say that I just saw him hide it. Come on, Brian.
So the neighbor comes up and tells me that animal control is here. I go out and talk to animal control, and
Do you tell him that I saw him hide it?
they say, "So what's going on?" I said, "The possum's back there," and at this point, the possum is not moving. I'm assuming it's been in there for 2.5 days, no water, no food in the rain. And the animal control person is like, "Well, this guy's saying that that he released the possum in the mountains this morning," and I was like, "No, I just saw him," and I'm like, "I just saw him. In fact, I filmed him pick up
Yes.
the cage and put it in the
Yes.
shed. I show animal control my phone video of him putting the cage in the shed."
Yes,
And
yes,
animal control
yes.
animal control is like, "We have video evidence that the possum is still back there and you just put it in the shed." And he's like, "If the possum is dead, you might be criminally charged for animal cruelty.
Yes.
You better hope the possum is alive. Just give me the possum. Give me the possum and let me take it from you. I'll just release it."
He should be charged anyway. The possum is near death.
He's
Torturing
been
animals.
tortured.
He's allowed to trap the animal, but he can't keep it in there until it starves to death and dies.
Right, but what if it's about to die? You know, like, isn't that a crime? Like, why is there not, like, if you hit someone with your car and don't kill them, you still get in trouble?
So the guy's like, "Okay, I now that there's video evidence, I'm going to go and get the possum." He takes the cage out. He brings it. And I say, "Should I stay here? Because I don't want to have a confrontation with the neighbor, but I do want to see what the possum's situation is." He puts the cage down. The possum is not moving. The animal control person takes out another cage, pokes at the possum, and it wakes up.
Yes!
Yay.
And then he's like, "What the fuck is going on?" The possum is okay. The animal control person takes the possum, puts it in her cage. She says, I'm going to release it in the mountains. And then she puts it in her truck, and my neighbor scowls at me, but he doesn't get in trouble either, which is fine. I don't want him to get in trouble and then have a vendetta.
Yes.
The possum is okay. The possum gets driven
This
to the mountains.
motherfucker.
The farmer isn't arrested, and I get to eat my pancakes. And I feel good that I saved the possum, but I also am in fear.
Yeah, I'd be in fear too. I mean, now he knows.
Yeah.
You're gonna be, man, because every time you leave your house, do you have a chance of like seeing him? Like, where is his car? Like, is there a place to run into him? I guess just to get the mail or take out the recycling. You're gonna have to time it now.
Oh, I see him all the time, and and then I try to smile at him, and he never smiles back. But now he's
this
definitely
guy's
not
a
gonna smile
fucking
back.
lunatic.
Sounds like a serial killer.
He really does.